What is up, everybody? We are live, man, and yeah, I'm kind of short on time, everybody. My apologies. That's my fault. I got to run out early and pick up my wife today, and I kind of went over on the member show, so I kind of like ruined my ability to finish all this content. So here's what we're going to do, because I only got 40 minutes. For those of you that are with us live right now, I'll do the I'll give you the extended spiel, but it's only going to last like 15 minutes, and then Cold Blood and I will on the back end talk about it for like another 25 minutes. Then tomorrow I'll do the video. It's just that I got to make sure, particularly on days where my time is cut back short, like I can't go into those longer early bird specials. Like it's just probably just best that we cut early bird special just to an hour period. And I just get used to doing that, because that kind of throws everything off, because I usually have like the whole morning to create the content and the shows, because I'm telling you, this shit takes hours. With that said, we got Cold Blood here with us. He's here. He's going to be here with us, I believe, for the whole duration. I'm not sure if you still had to run out, Cold Blood, but no, okay, he's good. All right, so here's what's going on, folks. We kind of talked about this earlier in early bird special, kind of ad nauseum, but there is some PlayStation hate, some PlayStation haterade happening at like a severe level. Like it's ridiculous at this point. I see my homie William Aguilar is now out here putting shit out here. And like everybody's trying to deal with this hate, right? We had Reforged Gaming put something out there, because, and it's kind of started yesterday, right? Like, let me put this tweet up here yesterday, and I was calling folks out yesterday. What had happened yesterday is Eurogamer, because it's slow. I get it. It's slow, and these websites are not creative. They're creatively bankrupt, and all they know how to do is just try to stoke controversy. So they went and did this article about Square Enix that, oh, Square Enix is doing bad, and then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it's all tied to PlayStation, right? It's all tied to PlayStation. So they thought that they could get the ponies all riled up and get the bots all excited, and it would cause a lot of, clicks for them. I don't think it did it, because I didn't see it reverberating through Twitter. But today we had our good friend Takahashi Machizuki from Bloomberg. I don't know how he's got hired. I don't know what he's there for, but he was there today putting some dog shit up about, this being a bad fiscal year, in so many words, in that I hope SIE launches the PlayStation 6 with a better strategy, right? Basically what he's trying to say is, look, the PlayStation quarterly fiscal report shows that there is a 27% decrease in the PlayStation console sales over last gen, right? And of course, nobody's saying that's great. In no stretch of the imagination is that like great or fantastic or whatever. Whenever you have a drop, it takes it out of the realm of fantastic, but you got to look at what's going on in totality. Like, for instance, the Nintendo Switch is dropping crazy too. But are we like up in arms like, uh-oh, Nintendo's in trouble. Oh, they need a better strategy. Like, no, it's on the other end of its life cycle, right? PlayStation is coming off one of its most stellar years as far as PlayStation shipments in a long time. Like it's surpassed what they did with the PlayStation 4, right? Like there's never been as many consoles shipped last fiscal year like there was in the PlayStation 4 era. And we got people out here, people that I normally respect, but I totally disagree with them here. We got people out here that are making assumptions about even that fiscal year where the numbers don't even jive up. I'm about to show you. So you have PlayStation, who comparatively was going up against a Leviathan year of performance, and they went down 27%. But they went down 27% versus competitors that didn't go up against prior Leviathan years, and they're going down like 42% and 40%. Now, again, Nintendo's situation is excusable, but Xbox's isn't. We'll get to that later. But the theme is that PlayStation is in a bad spot and the overall industry is bad, right? So I'm like laughing at this dude. Like this hate is so strong in this dude. This is the best he could write. This fiscal report, gotta love it, right? And then I also had to put this out here. When you take a look at what was generally being said, like we got Tom Warren out here. I said, when Tom Warren is in the list of the most opinions that totally annihilates yours over seemingly positive PlayStation news, you have lost the plot, homie, and you lost it bad. So again, here goes what Takahashi had to say, right? His BS. Here goes what Tom Warren says. Sony has reported strong gaming growth this quarter despite weaker PlayStation 5 sales. Sony sold 2.4 million PlayStation 5s this quarter, down 27% year over year, but first-party game sales and PlayStation subs drove growth, right? And that was the common thread out here. We even have VGC. They're known to try to, you know what I'm saying, take advantage of PlayStation 8. Even they have a similar response to this, right? And so to Dean's assessment, here is the comparison of PlayStation 4 versus PlayStation 5 hardware sales fiscal year to fiscal year, right? Look, they've again posted the biggest fiscal ever between the two with 20.8 sold. Consumers are spending more money. Each owner of the PlayStation 5 is spending more money than the owner of the PlayStation 4. And despite all of these variables, like hardware shortages or the microchip problems or the problems with the yen, they are still above water when you take in all of their revenue and all of their liabilities associated with PlayStation. You cannot say the same about Xbox. When you factor in even ABK revenue, but then you split up the cost of the merger, they're in the red. Like what are we doing here? So Dean Takahashi, his point is a nothing burger. Here's where I was a little surprised. Shout out to John Welfare, someone that I normally follow when it comes to analysis work, but I totally disagree with him on this analysis here. He says PlayStation 5 shipping 2.5 million last quarter is crazy and not in a good way. Same quarter for PlayStation 4 launch a line was 3.3 million, right? And he said, we already knew PlayStation 5 wasn't expected to catch PlayStation 4, but like last year, how does PlayStation 5 hit the target of 18 million fiscal year? Like, okay, so Nib got in here and got with him a little bit and set some things straight. But even more important than that, I'm like, okay, bro, you're comparing last fiscal PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5, even though I think it's only is it only a 3% difference, right? Like let's do the math real quick, super quick. Let's do the math. Okay, so launch to date, we got 61 million PlayStation 5 sold versus the 63.3 million PlayStation 4s. So yeah, it's a 3% difference. To be accurate, a 2.6% difference. Despite all of the supply restraints, all of that bullshit, it is a 2.6% difference. right? Okay. So let's examine this further. Let's look at, if you want to compare quarters of last gen, then let's compare quarters. Okay, they're doing significantly, they're not significantly, they are doing less in quarter one activity, but when you look at the adjacent quarter of quarter four, they're doing significantly higher. Like, on average, when you look at quarter four activity, which last generation was their worst quarter, like look at these numbers here versus all the other quarters last gen. When you look at them numbers and you look at them now for quarter four, they're significantly higher. The average is 4 million consoles versus 2.7 million average last gen. So if you want to compare quarters, we can compare quarters. I mean, it's clear cut. And here's what PlayStation did, which I feel like is ingenious, which totally contradicts what Takahashi was saying, and even, in my opinion, smacks down what John Welfare is saying. They went and took their least performant quarter last year and made it their second best this year. I mean, this generation. They took their last performant quarter last generation, made it their best performant quarter this generation. And they're only down 2.6% until it launched to date. So when you look at the fact that, like even John Welfare says, that they're down 2.4 million from 3.3 million, 2.4 million is like the average. They started off 2.3, went to 2.4, had that Leviathan year and then Leviathan quarter to go with it, and now they're back to 2.4. How is that crazy bad? When you consider that the quarter before it, right, has all this activity now. Like once they got past the supply restraints, look at all this activity now. Like prior to the big year, fiscal quarter one in 2023, they had sent out 6.3 million consoles. So without whatever contributions or activity they did there to help spawn that activity, you could argue that this would have been higher. All right, so you go into this quarter, this past quarter, quarter four, where it was 4.5, the highest it ever got. We had two back-to-back quarters of performance that was higher than it ever was for the PlayStation 4. Okay, they had a slow quarter four in 2021, supply restraint. But even the launch quarter of quarter four was higher than any quarter in the PlayStation 4 era. It was 3.3. The highest it ever got during the PlayStation 4 era in quarter four was 3.1. Quarter four used to be a low performant quarter for PlayStation in comparison to the other ones. PlayStation shifted its activity and now made it its second best. Now, granted, in other quarters, they are performing higher, but PlayStation was able to balance it out in a way where you got to shift your strategy. You can't lower your price. You're dealing with supply restraint, which is going to affect cost. So you can't do the exact same things that you did last gen because you don't have the same luxuries. So they made a shift in strategy and made this lower performant quarter a better performant quarter. They said we could squeeze more juice out of this and keep ourselves on par with the PlayStation 4. And how well are they doing? They're doing so well despite all the intricacies. They are only 2.7% behind the PlayStation 4. That's crazy to me. That's the crazy part. So In pointing this out to my good friend John Welfare, and again, I respect John. It's just, I totally disagree with him on this one. He says, the January-March 2024 quarter was the result of overshipping to hit the revised 21 million fiscal year goal. They went all out with price cuts on Spider-Man 2 bundles to hit that. Okay, I'm going to address that a little bit. I responded, I hear you, but that explains last quarter 4. What about prior? Where is the trend, where the trend possibly starts? Again, PlayStation doing certain things, providing certain activities. Like you said, they had a bundle where they cut the price somewhat, and they included Spider-Man 2 on that. That's activity driven by the company to change the trend. So instead of going into a lukewarm quarter 4, they boosted activity on quarter 4, and guess what? It worked, John. It worked. So you have, and I'm pretty sure in these higher numbers, you have people who normally would have just waited until April, June, that went and got their PlayStation 5 a month earlier because of promotions, games that were out there, and so forth. Don't forget, January through March, we had Helldivers 2. We had Final Fantasy Rebirth, I believe, and there was other games. Normally, you don't see those games in those months. That was a change in their activity that changed the trend. Where normally that activity would be slower, people said, oh, I don't have to wait till April. I don't have to wait till the summertime. Shit, I better get my PlayStation now. And that's what they did. So this statement right here just proves my point. But we'll continue. And I said, to clarify, these trends can be reactionary due to different business habits, bundles, games, etc., more prominent. Quarters this gen versus last. My argument is that the activity could be shifting purchases to the prior conjoined quarter. He responds, if Sony makes it a habit to overship in the final fiscal year quarters to hit targets, then that would be a change, but only for Sony and not something industry-wide. I'm not talking about the industry. Sony's in a unique place. They are a platform provider of AAA genre-defining games. That's just not just me buttering them up. That's what they do. Nintendo's not in that place. Xbox is not in that place because Xbox is trying to convince you that they don't have to sell you a console, and they're all about MAUs, right? PlayStation's business, they're doing AAA business that is centered around their marketplace, which is centered around the console. It is completely unique from the industry in that regards. They have supply restraints. They're dealing with the yen having a lower yield. That compacts their margins. So they can't do the same things they did last gen. They can't do them. They got to squeeze the juice out of the lemon in different areas that'll keep things a little bit more lucrative than it normally would. That's what good business people do. And the reason why I'm all worked up about this is because as much respect as I got for analysts, I do a lot of it too. That's how I keep my lights on. I analyze a lot of stuff, not necessarily with video games, but that's part of what I do. It's that executive part that even the video game analysts are missing. You cannot always do the same things. You got to change up your strategy. It can't be rinse and repeat and cookie cutter. These are a completely different set of dynamics for PlayStation that wasn't there last gen. So it looks like they changed up their strategy. They put a lot more focus on their activity and the things in their promotions and stuff to spur growth in quarter 4, where normally quarter 4 is just like a slower quarter for them. So we're going to continue. So I said, of course, again, just reiterating my point. But I think that feeds the thesis here. Consumer habits relative to the 2 quarters possibly changed due to circumstances that didn't exist last gen. minus such actions from Sony this fiscal quarter 4. So like, for instance, so what I'm trying to say is if Sony doesn't do the same type of things that they've been doing the last 2 quarters to grow more activity during quarter 4, then hey, then I can see you say, all right, quarter 1 is alarming. Then I can see that. Why? Because you won't have this newfound activity in quarter 4, which reasonably could be leading to the lesser activity in quarter 1. And see, and this is why I don't get, I don't get why it's crazy. Quarter 1, traditionally, if we're talking about what the tradition is, quarter 1 traditionally is not a huge quarter for PlayStation. Like traditionally, when it came to the PlayStation 4, it was their second lowest performing quarter. Quarter 3 still remains, because it's the holiday season, still remains their biggest quarter. But last generation, quarter 4 was their lowest performing quarter. Quarter 1 was their second lowest. Quarter 2, by a hair, was their second highest. And then their highest was quarter 3. What PlayStation did now is they changed the trajectory. Quarter 1 is the lowest. Quarter 2 is still the second high. Quarter 2 is the third highest, and they made quarter 4 their second highest. There seems to be something that they've seen to where if they shifted their strategy and went heavier in quarter 4, fiscal quarter 4, they can make up for losses that they would occur if they did otherwise. So that's why overall their fiscal is only down 2.6%. Despite all this stuff, reply restraints and all the things with the yen and everything, the fact that they can't cut prices because of the yen. So again, I'm not saying it, and believe you me, I'm not saying this to you guys go and attack John Welfare. No, I'm not saying that. I got respect for John. I just totally disagree with him on this. Totally disagree with him on this. Because he's looking for cookie cutter activity that isn't prevalent this generation. You have these scenarios that specifically for Sony, they can't do the same thing. Cutting prices is paramount to the Sony strategy in generations prior. They can't do that now. They switched it up and they kept the PlayStation 5 productivity and relatively close margins to the PlayStation 4. Now again, if we get to this point in time where let's just say quarter 4, this fiscal, they don't do well. Let's just say it goes back to like it's 2.0 or something like that. Like say if activity for quarter 4 this time around is like 3 million or lower, right? If it's 3 million or lower, then yes, you're going to expect a conjoining fiscal quarter 1. It has to be like 3 million or higher. If it's not 3 million or higher and the previous quarter is 3 million or lower, then you have a crazy downfall. But there's something else I want to address. So John pointed to, he said that they overshipped consoles. Okay, so overshipped to me would imply that they sent too many out, over demand, or they overstocked retailers, right? So let's see if the numbers jive with that. I'm going to good old faithful Matt Piscatella. I'm going to go to good old faithful Matt Piscatella. Let's see what Matt says about that. Well, first, Matt says hardware sales have fallen more than expected this year. A bit, sure. But has the release slate and price discontinuing also been lighter than expected? It's been as well. Exactly. Don't bite on the doom and gloom. The results have been quite reasonable given the factors at play. My point exactly. There are too many factors that changes the scenario and the dynamic of what can be done to get those results. And Sony only being 2.7% globally behind the PlayStation 4 worldwide, but still being 7% higher in its largest region, which is North America. That's what's crazy. But let's go to something else Matt Piscatella said. So this is January NPD results. Remember, this is the quarter that my good friend John Welfer said Sony overshipped. Pay attention to this. January video game hardware spending fell 4% when compared to 2023, right? There was a 4% drop. PlayStation 5 was the best-selling hardware platform of January 2024 in both units and dollars. So they were number one in units and dollars. And Matt Piscatella's been saying all year that PlayStation was killing it first quarter. So overshipping assumes that you put more consoles out there than demand needed. But PlayStation was killing it in January. And PlayStation 5s were flying off the shelves and they weren't just sitting there, right? Supply wasn't just sitting there. Let's go to February, all right? Where Matt Piscatella says that February video game spending did decline 30%. Okay, when compared to a year ago. But PlayStation 5 again in February led to year-to-date hardware market in both unit and sales, right? So once again, they led, despite the 30% decrease. Once again, March. It says that it was a 32% drop when compared year to year. But again, PlayStation 5 led the hardware market in unit and dollar sales during. Okay, so number one, PlayStation led in dollars and unit sales all three of those months where they quote unquote overshipped, right? And I walk in the stores, you walk in the stores. PlayStation 5s were still flying off the shelves. Cold Blood, let me ask you real quick. Did you walk in the stores and see PlayStations just sitting there?
When?
At any time this year, like during January through March, did you just see PlayStations just not moving and sitting there?
Yes.
Oh, you did see PlayStations not going anywhere. Oh, I didn't see that.
No, I mean, I see a fucking ton of them in the stores, but I also see a lot of them leaving the store.
Exactly.
I don't see no Xbox leaving the store.
Yeah. Like when they said they overshipped, I don't understand that theory and that process. But the more important figure is, okay, so the averages that Matt Piscatella gave you was 40, 32, and 27%, right? So generally there was around a 30% drop in performance and hardware. Let me show you something. You want to know the difference between the 6.3 they sold in that in January through March versus 4.5? You want to know the difference? The difference was 30%. If they overshipped, in my mind, wouldn't there be like a greater dispiriting figure? Or not a greater, wouldn't there be a smaller one if they overshipped? Like that 4.5 million seemed to be the demand. Like, I don't jive with the excuse that they've overshipped to try to meet the 21 million because they didn't even meet the 21 million. You ship more than what's needed and you still fall short. No, they trust me. If the goal was to overship supply, they would have shipped more than 20. They would have shipped like 21.5 million. Easy. 21.5 million. Easy. You talking about globally? Yeah. They shipped to what demand was. And in January, February, and March, in its biggest regions, PlayStation was in high demand. That's why I don't agree with that assessment at all. Not at all. This number, if it was just simply them over shipping to try to get a bigger number here, this number would be 6.0 or at least 5.5. It wouldn't be 4.5. It's just a reasonable 30% drop of what it is, period, across the board. Demand globally was a 30% drop. Sony's performance was a 30% drop. That's what you see here. Not no Sony shipping out only 18% less than what they did the previous quarter, but there's a 30% drop in purchases? No. Again, 30% drop year over year for Sony consoles shipped, and there's a 30% drop globally of consoles purchased for everybody. When you average them out for everybody, it's a 30% drop. See, here's the point that I'm trying to make, and I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but the analysis is only as straightforward as the analyzer. So when you have analysis that just doesn't jive with a lot of the facts that are surrounding it, then you should take caution to it. I'm supposed to leave here in 5 minutes. We got to stay here for another 20 minutes. My wife is just going to have to whoop my ass. So I'm going to leave here at 3:15. She'll be all right. She'll be okay. I promise. Because I got to let Cold Blood chime in on this. But that's where we're at, y'all. I just had to break that down and explain that to everybody, to where I just think that some people, I think in John Welford's case, again, he doesn't have a publication or anything like that. I just think he's overreacting. I think John is overreacting. And I think in other cases, people are just trying to hate on PlayStation. Let me show you guys one more tweet, and then I'm going to turn it over to Cold Blood. And then, like I said, I'll do a more condensed video because I have a lot more slides and a lot more things to show you in a more condensed fashion, during the video. But here goes, shout out to Refuting Gaming for this one. Ryan McCaffrey, Cold Blood's favorite journo. He says, gosh, it's almost as if Sony and Microsoft too, after their numbers in last week's earnings reports, have run out of people to sell $500 consoles to. Drop the price. Yes, there are many other factors, but price is always a primary demand lever, right? Number one, Ryan McCaffrey. Look, I'm going to send a message to Ryan McCaffrey and send one to my homie John Welford too, for them to just like really peel back the veil and think about what they've reacted to. Number one, okay, we are used to like a $299, $399, or $299, $199 scenarios, and the lowest we've gotten is $399 as far as like suggested retail. I know there's sales that may make something $250 or $350, but I'm talking about the suggested retails. The cheapest we got is $399 when it comes to the PlayStation, right? But I'm going to show you guys something.
Wait a second.
What's up?
He's telling PlayStation to drop the price.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Xbox wasn't an indication of anything.
Yeah.
they dropped the fucking price. It didn't lead to more sales.
Mm-hmm.
So why you even mention Xbox in this shit?
Yeah, exactly.
It's only when PlayStation drops the price.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Then it will make fucking sense.
But we already have a $400 digital edition, right? And again, people are used to lower. But here goes something from our good friend John Welfare that I discovered in him talking to Matt Piscatella during the same quarter where he said the PlayStation overshipped, right? The PlayStation overshipped in this quarter, but this is him talking to Matt Piscatella. That's why, again, nothing against John Welfare, but if I got to take the analysis of Matt versus the analysis of John, I'm going to go to Matt, because even John goes to Matt. Even he defers to Matt. After Matt put out the numbers for January, John asked, he said, something I was finding throughout January and still now through February. Listen to this. Something he was finding through January and February is that the PlayStation 5 digital edition is selling very well at some retailers. It's even the #1 PlayStation 5 SKU. Can you say what the split is for a PlayStation 5 digital edition compared to total sales? Matt says DE still less than a third of the monthly units, but yet it's become more widely available recently. Good catch. What about the, he goes on about Series X where Matt doesn't answer to him. But here's the thing. If PlayStation overshipped, but what if they were meeting demand, and the thing that was really in demand during that time period was the DE version because it was the cheaper version. And now gamers have relished to the fact that, hey, maybe I don't have to just deal in physical copies. Let me get a digital copy. It's only $100 more than the S, with 1,000 times more performance. So this is what I understand. You're saying that the digital edition is doing so much more performance-wise. You said that then, but now it's, they overshipped. When we look at the numbers, I don't see where they overshipped. They shipped 6.3 million the prior fiscal quarter. And this past Q4, they shipped 4.5 million. That's 30% less, which is aligned with the sales demand. So if the sales demand globally and the shipped numbers match up, how do you equate that they overshipped? When the sales demand drop is equivalent to the shipment drop. Because if it was, I'm going to tell you something from an executive level. If it was about reaching that 21 million, they would have reached that 21 million. Like all they would have had to do was go up another 500,000 and ship 5 million. PlayStation can't do that globally. They can't ship 500,000. Come on. Come on. They couldn't ship 500,000 more? They overshipped, but you admit that, what was it? You admit that they went out with price cuts for Spider-Man 2 to hit that. So if they overshipped, what does the price cuts got to do with it? Unless whatever they shipped was purchased. Right? So what was the litmus to say that they overship? What are we using here? Maybe there's something that I'm just not aware of because I don't do commercial video game retail. What is it that is used as a litmus to say this is what they should have sent out, but they sent out this instead and they overshipped? Now, to be fair to John, I never asked that question, But I didn't even go to ask it because I just thought that whatever answer was irrelevant because the numbers just don't jive to it.
No, it's easy, bro. They just use post-up logic.
Or they use post-up Grubhub numbers and they
Yeah, like you just go so get up and get some fucking numbers out of it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's time for me to shut up. Cold Blood, I defer. Now, speaking of deferring, I'm deferring to you now. What is your thoughts on all this, man?
Man, touch some fucking grass. Like that's my fucking fault on this, bro. Like, what the fuck? Why is everyone so mad about fucking numbers that Sony does?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, because it excuses it's an excuse. They picked they picked Xbox. Now, I'm not saying John Welford did that. I think John Welford just overreacted. But then that's just my opinion. You could say that I'm wrong or whatever, or bring out proof to the contrary. That's fine. That's just my opinion. But I think what happened, Cold Blood, is like in the places of Ryan McCaffrey and the Destin Legaria, who's gonna dribble all over this. It justifies their choice of Xbox because now they get to say, see, I wasn't wrong. Nobody expected this. Look at PlayStation. PlayStation's doing horrible too.
Doing horrible with 61 million
Bruh.
PlayStation sold?
Only less than 3%. That's what I'm saying. Like a 2.7% decrease post. And I know we get sick and tired of talking about the pandemic, but in a post-pandemic situation, a 2.7% decrease is crazy considering everything that they're dealing with. I don't know how to. I don't know what to say to people.
They know that the PS5 outsold the Xbox One in less than 3 years.
Yeah.
Probably. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Yep. And give it like what, a year and a half? They're on pace to outsell both generations. What are we doing here? I don't understand. I truly don't understand. I get for those that are market savvy, looking at the margins and saying, for investors might not be happy with the market, but that ain't got nothing to do with the tea in China at this moment in time. When it comes to us gamers, that it's not affecting us at that realm.
Just ask True Virgil. He knows what the bots take. Some fucking green substance called crack cocaine, bro.
He said Nintendo is okay, but Xbox isn't. How? Because Nintendo has been killing it, and they're at the life cycle. They're in a different scenario. I'm gonna show you something.
No, just imagine a console never going down in price and almost outselling.
Oh my God!
The highest selling console of all time.
Everybody,
down to 100 now.
Was on pace to beat the PlayStation 2? What are we talking? This is not the same. And here it is. I think Nib puts it perfectly. Some may look at the latest quarterly results from PlayStation and Xbox and wonder why there's much negativity around PlayStation 5 decline versus Xbox Series X and S. Context is king. Xbox every year has seen a decline. We talked about this earlier in our member stream. Imagine if PlayStation saw those same declines. By the time that we got to this quarter, it would be almost less than 1 million sold. If PlayStation saw the same decline, they would have sold barely 1 million consoles this quarter. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Barely 1 million. When you look at, go ahead.
No, Emma brought up a good point.
What's that?
Well, read it.
Oh, bet PlayStation 5 lost hardware sales this year because of the well-known PlayStation 5 Pro rumors. That could be another thing, and that's probably why they're not, I've heard this elsewhere, that's probably why they're not mentioning the PlayStation 5 Pro, because people are saying, if you don't have a PlayStation 5 already, they could be saying, you know what, I'm just going to wait for this Pro, and that's why they don't want to say something. That's a great point as well. I mean, there's many factors, but when we look at the numbers within themselves, there isn't a crazy drop. Were we bitching and whining about 2.3, 2.4 in previous quarters? No, we weren't. The 3.3 was a unicorn. It was a unicorn year. It was their highest selling year ever. It was not atypical. Even in the year when they did 19.1, which again, 19.1 would have been the second highest year during the PlayStation 4 era. Even during that quarter, they only did 2.4. Did we say, oh my God, that's crazy, they're horrible? No, we didn't. What are we doing? Quarter one this generation just is not a big bang out performant quarter. It is underperforming versus quarter one last gen, but quarter four is killing quarter four last gen. Now, if you see these quarter one numbers and quarter four significantly decreases, then I get it. Yes, then I understand. But it's just a bunch of malarkey right now.
You know, you asked, what are we doing here? We're doing mental gymnastics, bro.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what we're doing. Nobody's saying that PlayStation had a fantastic quarter. No, I mean, with hardware, no. Anytime you lose gains in hardware, it's not perfect. But when you look at like the Switch in their situation, you look at PlayStation in their situation, the fact that they did, like, what did Reforged Gaming say? He said, he rephrased what Ryan McCaffrey said, and look, he just totally rephrased it. It just was sarcastic. PlayStation 5 is pacing above the PlayStation 4 in the US. It is. The number of PlayStation 5 sold last quarter matched the same quarter from 2022. It's almost as if the PlayStation 5 isn't running out of people to sell to. What are we doing here? Now, if we get to a point again, quarter one is at the levels that it's at now, and then quarter four is like is at 3 million or under, then I would get it. And then you don't see any gains in the other subsequent quarters. If you don't see gains shift elsewhere, like when I look at this, to me, it just looks like that the gains have shifted. Sony has done promotions. John has said it himself. He thinks he's undercutting the point, but he's making the point. That quarter was made because they overshipped. But then this is where he contradicts himself. They went all out with price cuts on Spider-Man 2. Okay. So a price cut like that would shift the demographic into saying, well, hold on, I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to wait to buy my PlayStation until I go into summer break. I'm going to buy that shit now. There's a price cut. He's proven my point. Sometimes before we react and we hit send on shit, it is good for us to just sit down and look at it. Just look at it. That proves my point. You had an argument here, which I still think wasn't that strong of an argument, but fine. It was an argument nonetheless. You're saying that they overshipped. I do the research though after the fact, and I don't see that. I don't see where they overshipped. That you would have to clarify that more, but it's an argument nonetheless. But here's where you prove my point and shoot down yours. They went all out in price cuts on the Spider-Man 2. So again, if traditionally or demographic wise, I'm the one that's most likely going to participate to make quarter one bigger than this, but then I see that price cut, I'm buying that motherfucker in January through March. I'm buying it in January. Go ahead.
Moss.
Uh-huh.
Some people mention GTA 6 being the console mover.
I believe so.
I mean, yeah, we've been telling that for a long time now.
Yeah.
And that will be the perfect time to do this price cut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if they do that, bro, oh my god.
Yeah. It's sick.
You're gonna have a second fucking first launch day, bro. In these goddamn GameStops and shit, bro. They be fighting for these goddamn things.
You know what would be even more crazy too, Cold Blood? Is that let's just say they do the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now again, we don't know what this thing is going to do. That's why I don't report on the PlayStation 5 Pro, because I hear all these things. I want to believe them, but again, we'll see when we see. But what if the PlayStation 5 Pro can, in the sake of GTA 6 at least, give you some good looking 4K 60, right? Or give you some great 60 frames per second. Let's pretend. Say it does do that. And there's a price cut of the PlayStation 5, like a significant price cut. PlayStation would then have the high-end gamer market for consoles covered and the low-end gamer market for consoles. They would have, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't get why, because of those possibilities, and I get where you doubt it, but it's a possibility nonetheless. Because of those possibilities, I don't get why people like John Welfare are so quick to assume that the PlayStation 5 is not going to catch up with the PlayStation 4. It may not do it. It may not, and I'm not saying that it has to, but I wouldn't say that it's etched in stone yet. I mean, this was a piss poor second half for PlayStation 5, I think. But if they got some bangers coming out the remaining years, and then you have that situation with Grand Theft Auto 6, because Jim Ryan said they got something special with GTA 6. I wonder what that is. Or his exact words were, we got something special with the next version of GTA, and he wasn't talking about the remix.
I know. It's gonna be a special delay for the Xbox. with the reasoning being, more optimization time.
Yeah, they're gonna have to have a Fire Stick too. But that's all I'm saying, y'all. Like, to Cold Blood's point, you got people out there that have an agenda, man. We got to wrap up. I wish we could have done a full show today, but
me too.
We got people to have that have an agenda. They went all in on Xbox and then they lost on going all in. They're looking for excuses to justify them going all in on Xbox because it makes them look silly, right? Instead of just saying, hey, look, I prefer Xbox for my own particular reasons. If you're like me, join me here as I put out these said articles or these said content. No, they tried to persuade you that Xbox was going to dominate in a major way this generation.
Dude, no, wait. Doc did that and ended up being a PC gamer, so it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, that's why they didn't do it. They didn't do it because it wouldn't be lucrative enough. No, they had to ride the rabbit wave. All right, Xbox is going to kill it. The Series asshole. They had to ride that wave, and now they're paying for it. And to justify their coming to soften the landing, they want to drag PlayStation down with it. PlayStation's 27% drop is after a record-breaking year. So Takahashi from Bloomberg, shut the hell up. I would even say to those that side with John Welfare and his thoughts on this about the over shipping and all the other stuff. it seems like to me that whatever they shipped, there was demand for it. There was extreme demand for it. These consoles didn't just sit on the shelves. There was such a demand for it that you yourself had commented to Matt Piscatella, hey, look, dude, I'm seeing an increase in how much PlayStation 5 digital editions are being sold. Hey, Matt, can you help me understand? Even you called that out when it happened. And then when we looked at the subsequent months of those quarters, I see the declines between the two quarters. The 30% decline matching the demand in sales. There was a decline in what they shipped, which was a 30% decline. There was a decline in sales, which was 30%. I have a hard time understanding how you can have a decline in what was shipped that matches exactly your decline in sales. To me, there would be more shipped. There would be like if what you shipped, if there was a 15% decline in what you shipped, but then a 30% decline in what was sold, then I would be like, there you go. There you go. But I don't see that. And what leads me to believe that, yeah, there was a Spider-Man 2 cut, but as you can look at NPD, Spider-Man 2 was dropping in NPD. I mean, it stayed there, but it was fluctuating. Helldivers 2, Final Fantasy Rebirth, what else? What came in March? That quarter four was crazy for PlayStation. So, all right, I'm about to get out of here, y'all. Cold Blood, you got any final thoughts before I get out of here, or before we get out of here?
Xbox has no games, so deal with that.
Yeah, there's nothing to be worried about, Emma. I mean, again, they're not. This quarter, you don't sit there and say, yeah, that's what we want to see every quarter one. You don't want to see that type of decline every quarter one, but there's context behind it. So it's understandable. All right, y'all, I got to get out of here. My wife is going to kick my ass. I should have been out of here. I only got 9 minutes to pick her up on a road trip that takes me 30 minutes to get there. So, all right, y'all, I'm out of here. Till next time, have a wonderful gaming day. Thank you for joining us. Peace.